Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into the Locked On Knicks podcast. I'm Gavin Schall. Today, I'm joined by Knicks beat reporter Kris Pursiainen to tell you why Joel Embiid may be a name to continue to watch for the New York Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? You are Locked On Knicks, and I wanted to thank you for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day. We are now available on all platforms, each and every one of them. So if you want to become an everydayer, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, hit that notifications bell to ensure that you never miss an episode, and be sure to do the same on your favorite audio podcast platform of choice. But who's talking to you? I'm Gavin Schall. I've covered the NBA for 8 years now, and I'm also a play-by-play broadcaster. In fact, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. And today I'm joined by Kris Pursiainen, who has covered the New York Knicks as a beat reporter for the past 4 years. Fantastic guy to get to talk to. If you missed part one, this is the second of 2 bonus episodes we are putting out this weekend, talking to Kris about an article he put out on the legacy of the OG Anunoby, Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett trade. But in this one, we go a little bit deeper and we talk about, all right, like why make this move now? What are the implications for this move? What does it mean for the Knicks' pursuit of the big fish, the big whale, maybe someone like, I don't know, Joel Embiid, and why the vibes are oh so good for the rest of the season. And Knicks fans have a lot of reason for optimism. We get into all that right now. Again, important caveat for this one, we recorded on Thursday at the tail end of the Knicks 5-game winning streak. So that is why we do not talk about the loss to the Dallas Mavericks. I don't think it changes too much, but just wanted to give you guys a heads up. So without further ado, let's get into it right now with Kris.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the important thing to remember is that they just extended Deuce McBride. I call it a 3-year, $13 million one-way ticket out of town. It's just, the reality of the business is when you sign an extension like that with the Knicks, they're probably going to include you in a deal soon. Mitchell Robinson's deal is also one that I have my eye on. Like, I know Begley's been reporting, like, teams are low-key interested, but the Knicks aren't really feeling it out yet. Like, they don't want to do anything. I wouldn't be surprised if Robinson is moved in the offseason, but not because the Knicks aren't high on him, because they're upgrading at center. As for where the Knicks are now, I think that's just it. I think they're willing to wait for the offseason. I don't think they see this year as the be-all, end-all year at all. They're nowhere close to it. They've been so diligent about not trading their own first-round picks and triggering the Stepien rule. Because, when you trade 1 first-round pick, you're trading 2 years of draft control pretty much. Trade 2 first-round picks, you're trading 3-4 years of draft control. And so that's why they've acquired first-round picks from other teams to use when they need first-round picks, when they need little sweeteners and deals, because they don't want to be left in a scenario like a team like Phoenix, like you said right now. When's their next pick? 2031. I'll like have
talk about that, man.
I'm 21 years old. I'm gonna like have kids when they make a draft pick next. So
they'll be in college.
Good God. But I hope not. But basically, like, the Knicks are really good right now, and I think they're okay being really good right now. I think they're okay not being elite. I think they're okay not being the class of the East, the class of the league. It's the Celtics, it's the Bucks, and it's the Knicks. Like, I think they're okay if Philly beats them in a series. They'll survive. They're trying to go get their guy anyway. It's just like this is a front office that has long operated in crawl mode and is now slowly starting to stand up, but isn't sprinting yet. They're just standing up. They're letting everyone know, like, hey, like, we're looking now. We're up. We're awake. We're ready. Hide your stars. Hide your stars. Hide your GMs. We're coming for all of them. Like that type of vibe. They sat courtside at Jalen Brunson versus Donovan Mitchell. They attended Joel Embiid's wedding last offseason. Like those things are not them being cute. That's not like Uncle Leon and Uncle Wes supporting an old client. That is like, we're being very loud that we want you because we want everyone to know it. And that, I don't know, Knicks fans have been asking for that kind of star talent for a while, but like Steve Mills wanted KD and Kyrie to sign up to play on a team that was just led by Michael Beasley. Like there was no infrastructure. And so those guys, regardless of how they're tenure went to the team with infrastructure. And that's the thing, is the Knicks have been looking to build a team where they can plug in stars. I think you look at their team now, what they did in terms of turning Quickly and Barrett's usage into Anunoby and his off-ball stuff. Like someone like Joel Embiid fits right into what the Knicks are doing. Look at Hartenstein and how he's been getting more involved because he can pass. That could be Embiid in the offense and also scoring 25 points a game. You take a look at swapping out a Randall for a Booker down the line. That's a move that you can sell Booker on. Hey, you're going to get all his shots. You're not just here and you don't have to just fight for the, like, they are trying to build a framework that they can look at stars that they used to represent and be like, hey, we know you, you know us, you know, we're going to run the team well. You don't have to worry about that. They also, all the stars, Mitchell, Embiid, everyone was like, oh, Leon's going to kill it when he got hired. We just want you to come take these 19 shots a game for us. And they're going to be like, okay, you know, that's the difference. And I think that is the real calculation with how good the Knicks are right now, is that they have all their picks, that they're not in any rush. So they know they're good, but it's all house money. Last year it was all house money. Like this to them is all house. Any one playoff series is house money. Like there's no expectations yet. And the media still says Brunson's not good enough to be a number one option. Okay. So if they lose in the second round, no one should hate on them, right? Because you all said he wasn't good enough to be a number one option. Now they'll go get a name brand star. I just think this is like how it was always going to go. And they're now at the point where they're starting to stand up from crawl mode. But they haven't changed their course at all. This is the path they've always wanted to sail.
I guess that being said, if they go, and I mean, to me, that would make it less likely they go for someone like a DeJounte Murray or DeMar DeRozan, or even like aiming a little higher, like a Donovan Mitchell, because to your point, maybe they have even bigger names in mind than him. But let's just say they do go the Brogdon route. Like this is, I guess this is what I've been battering like back and forth in my mind, like the last week or so. Like, does that change like their ultimate outcome? Like, they'd clearly be a better team with Malcolm Brogdon playing Deuce McBride's minutes and whatever, like 5 of DiVincenzo's and 4 of Quinn Grimes, like undeniably, because he's a really good player, like rightfully, wrongfully won 6th man of the year over Emmanuel Quickly a season ago. And yet, like, you get to the second round, like, is he the difference between beating the Heat or beating the Sixers? You somehow get out of that series, and that's amazing. But is he the difference against the Boston Celtics? Like, and I would say probably not. But I do wonder if getting someone like him is kind of like buying a lottery ticket. It's always said in the NBA, like, you never know how small your window is. And I think the Knicks are going to want a more meaningful sample size of just how good they are. And my gut instinct is, like I said it before, but like they're not quite as good as what they're showing now. And there will be teams that can punish the fact that they're not able to score for 6, 7, 8 minutes at a time. And I think literally just adding one guy like a Brogdon would go a long way towards changing that. And I do wonder if that's almost buying a lottery ticket at contention this year. And like, does that mean they'd have like literally like a 1 in 100, a 1 in 150 shot at a title instead of a 1 in 400 shot at a title? Like, maybe, but maybe that's worth it, especially like, again, with Brogdon being under contract for 2 years, you're like, all right, we'll give up like the Bucks pick. And like, I think that was the trade Jeremy put out there, like the Bucks pick, Malachi Flynn and Evan Fournier. And like we can, and when we can use Brogdon as like an equivalent asset to that in a future star trade, and maybe the salary slot's even more valuable than that. Who knows? So in that sense, like it's maybe a no loss proposition, but I'm wondering like how much they're thinking is like, are we good enough to like push in the chips just like a tiny bit, just almost for fun to see like, all right, is this like, could this get us to game 7, tie game with 3 minutes left against the Miami Heat when otherwise we'd lose in 5 or 6?
I think if they're going to trade for Joel Embiid this summer, they need a $22 million salary. That's just the that's the Jeremy reality of the situation, is that no matter how good Deuce McBride is,
crazy living in Jeremy reality. I'm just not good enough at math to make it there. But sorry, Chris.
No matter how good Deuce McBride is, I think they pick up Brogdon or someone like him, and the reason is because it all works out. And why do I say that? Well, Malcolm Brogdon, you know, he starts in Portland, but he came off the bench recently, weirdly, and I had heard that when he was in Boston, he wasn't thrilled about the fact that he wasn't starting. So, you know, for all the 6th man of the year talk, he was almost like, yeah, I better get that award. Like I should be starting. And I just think for Brogdon, you can sell him on half a season of coming off the bench and being the 6th man of the year for the Knicks. and then getting to go to Philadelphia and start next to fellow clutch client, Tyrese Maxey, or go to Cleveland and play with fellow clutch client, Darius Garland. I just think that that could be the sell. Like, hey, we're going to bring you off the bench. You know that, but we're going to send you somewhere you could start right as soon as the season ends. And if not, then maybe we'll start you here, but hopefully you're gone. And I think that might kind of be it with Brogdon. Like, I'm of the opinion that they're going to give Deuce McBride a couple more weeks before making a Brogdon deal. If anything, just to show Portland they're not desperate. But Portland, hopefully for the Knicks faithful and for the Knicks front office, doesn't listen to Jeremy and I, because if Portland does know that the Knicks really need that Brogdon salary to send it out for a star, then they might hold Brogdon a little bit hostage. The thing is just that he's under contract for next season. And that's what's valuable to the Knicks, because he's under contract at an amount that works perfectly to flip alongside a McBride and a Robinson, or a Grimes and a Robinson for someone like Joel Embiid. And that's just what the reason I keep going to Joel Embiid is because it's just so easy to use him as an example. Like,
I was gonna ask.
And I had heard last offseason that he looked upon the Knicks favorably as a maybe not a place where James Harden doesn't play and Daryl Morey doesn't. Like, I'm not sure he's in love with the Morey Harden, like how that all went down. I'm not sure he was even super excited to be in Philadelphia this year. And I do know he looked at New York favorably last offseason. Didn't request a trade, as we all know, but he looked at New York favorably. And that is enough for the Knicks to be like, hey, we used to represent you. We know you. We're going to come get you out of there, and it's all about fitting those puzzle pieces in so that the car can get out.
All right, guys, we'll be back with Kris in just a sec to tell you why you should be optimistic about the rest of the Knicks season and some names they could potentially be in on. But before we do that, I got to tell you about our good friends over at eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Josh has picked out for us on this week's eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. I'm looking and I see it's two former Knicks on this list, both Emmanuel Quickley and current Knick in Dante DiVincenzo. I'm going to go with Dante DiVincenzo because there are minutes available in New York, and Dante DiVincenzo has taken advantage of them, hitting 5 3-pointers in the New York Knicks last game against the Dallas Mavericks. But that isn't out of the ordinary for Dante. He is legitimately one of the best shooters in basketball, hitting over 45% of his shots from deep this year. I think things are only going to go up for Dante. I have a feeling at some point the Knicks are ultimately going to try him as the backup point guard. And if they do that, the sky's the limit. The points, rebounds, steals, assists are all going to go up. And he's already providing elite value as a 3-point marksman. So be sure to pick up Dante DiVincenzo in your fantasy league. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. And the same is true with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. But today's episode is also brought to you by PrizePicks. What is PrizePicks? I'll tell you. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports DFS platform in North America. We're the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. So instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. So, in those others, you have those guys and girls that have statistics degrees from a Harvard or an MIT and put in thousands of entries. You're never going to beat those people. On PrizePicks, you don't even have to worry about it. But that's not my favorite feature. My favorite feature is PrizePicks offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball, basketball games. If you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use our code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, it's daily fantasy sports made easy.
OG is an on-court puzzle piece. Brogdon's salary would be an off-court puzzle piece. I've been saying since 2020, their top two guys are Embiid and Booker, and then Mitchell's number 3. And like, that's still the case today. Giannis snuck on the list as number 1 for a little bit, and then they got Dame, and that was over.
So do you think that's over? Because
I think it's over. I think it's
okay.
Over. But
go ahead.
They're good with they're gonna stay. They'll be all right. That'll settle itself out. The rookie head coach was never a good idea. They'll figure it out. But with the Knicks, it's like everything just lines up towards getting Embiid, extending Randall, swapping Randall for Booker down the line. It adds up too nicely. And so it's not like I'm going to be disappointed that my predictions don't come true if that doesn't happen. It's a future path to look at to try and make sense of their moves now. Because if I can try and think about, they're trying to lead up to this. That's how I even figured out. Malcolm Brogdon was a random name. I was just looking through clutch clients that were under contract for next season that played guard that would be willing to come off the bench that made about $22 million next season. Brogdon came right up, and I was like, oh, okay. So I poked around, and a source was like, yeah, no, they've called Portland about him, and I was like, oh, and then someone else was like, no, yeah, the Knicks in Orlando have been in really good touch about Brogdon. I was like, oh, I had my Jeremy Cohen moment where I kind of figured out on my own who they'd be targeting and then confirmed it with sources. And it's just okay, cool. But now because I have their hypothetical destination in mind, it's easier for me to make a road out of it that makes sense. So that's why I just keep throwing names out there like Embiid and Booker, because we know that's who they're trying to build towards. And we know that they're good enough where if they don't get the guy, it's not a lost cause. Everything isn't going to crap. We're not left with that team that the Knicks had the year after they missed out with the power forward memes and everything. That's not a reality because the team is really good right now.
Yeah. I mean, Keith Pompey, who covers the Sixers for the Philadelphia Inquirer, Locked On Sixers guy, friend of the pod, he's come on a few times and basically said as much in regard to Embiid that part of him really wants to end up in New York, and if it's not going to be Philly, it's going to be New York. And my curiosity is all right, how bad does that mean they have to lose in the first round? Does that mean they have to lose a competitive second round? Because I think what quelled my personal tide on that, where I came on this podcast preseason, my big bold prediction was that before the beginning of next year, Joel Embiid would be a New York Knick. And that was before Tyrese Maxey looked like an all NBA guard. And I wonder if that single-handedly is enough to keep him in Philly for the indefinite future, but also he is kind of the guy to acquire for the Knicks. And it's where I've come down DeJounte Murray, not in the sense that the Knicks would have to give up all their assets for him. And of course you could spin him forward. I guess I don't know all the cap machinations, and maybe you've worked on it more than I have, Chris. And
it would be if you swapped Randall for him, then you're doing it because you think Cat's salary is going to be a better swap for Booker down the line. I don't think Cat's any sort of.
I was saying DeJounte Murray, but Cat.
Oh, DeJounte, I've been told wouldn't want to come off the bench, so I don't think the Knicks would trade for him to make him do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think they'd start him if they traded for him, but also that brings up is that worth it?
I just think that rumor, I think that from what I've heard, that any time spent towards that rumor is not worth it.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense to me because I don't think even if he was starting here, I don't think he'd be super happy, being hey, you're going from the second guy in Atlanta where you're not happy to the third guy in New York where you're probably winning a little bit more. But I think he wants to be the number 1 guy somewhere. Even if that's on a crappy team, and more power to him. But I guess where I'm getting with all this is it always makes sense to me that the end game should be someone who could be the number 1 guy on a championship team. And I think to your point, the Knicks have clearly shown they have the patience to wait for that guy to become available. Now, whether they actually have the firepower in terms of assets to pull it off, I think they're heavily reliant there on a guy insisting that he wants to go to New York and is not interested in living in Oklahoma City, maybe not even interested in living in a Houston or Utah, which could happen because we heard for the last 20 plus years, Kris, like, hey, when like if you build it, they will come. The Knicks have built it. Let's see what happens now.
Absolutely. That's what I was trying to say, like with the infrastructure. That's why I alluded to Brooklyn. Like, I don't think those Brooklyn Nets were a model franchise. They just had organization.
Yeah.
And they had an infrastructure that you could look at and go, okay, we can take over those shot attempts per game. Like, we'll take
can
those
we throw
over.
out the vibes on the Knicks are just as good, and the talent coming in is not even compare, at least in terms of frontline talent. Like the Nets had Jared Allen, they had Spencer Dinwiddie, they had Karis LeVert, they had Joe
Fun
Harris.
team.
That was a fun team, good team,
Frisky.
really enjoyable to watch.
Not good.
They were fine. They were a playoff team.
They were okay,
and that was amazing, given that those were all scrap heap guys. The Knicks have an All NBA type guard in Jalen Brunson. They have someone who's been an All NBA power forward in Julius Randle. And as we said, like the skeleton key to all these stars who do not want to spend their seasons guarding the best guy on another team, they have OG Anunoby. They have great defensive centers. And somehow, even after that trade, they still have pretty good depth. Like, this is like, if you are a superstar ready to get out, and of course, like as the league continues to get better, like you could say the same things about Oklahoma City times 10. So I'm not saying that in terms of pure like player value, the Knicks are so far ahead of everyone else, but player value plus market, like it's pretty hard to top what the Knicks have right now.
Speaking of, we talked about earlier, my girlfriend is who kind of inspired the Quickly piece. She asked me recently if like New York, I feel like everyone would want to play in New York. Why have the Knicks been bad for so long? And I was like, it's a great question.
That's the question.
Like that's a great question. Here's the thing, if you build it, they'll come. And they've actually built something. Like the team that they built without mortgaging any of their future made it to the second round of the NBA playoffs and lost to the team that inevitably made it to the finals. Okay, that's good. Build on that. Make it to the second round again. Get cut out in the first round by a bad matchup for you. Who cares? You still haven't mortgaged your future. Just keep building. Teams have ups and downs. Go through them. Learn together. I think the Oklahoma City Thunder don't have a shot at winning a thing this year, despite being one of the best 8 teams clear cut in the NBA. Why? Those guys have a lot to learn. Those young fellas have a lot to learn. They've got to lose. They've got to fail on the biggest stages. Like I was saying earlier, they got to get embarrassed on national TV to go get to the grindstone and come back even better. And by the way, you were talking about vibes. Jalen Brunson was asked today by media if there was any extra motivation, playing his former team in Dallas. And he said, no, it's just, the most Jalen Brunson answer ever. It's just another game, whatever. And Isaiah Hartenstein comes over and he goes, you guys notice he got a new haircut, right? Like he definitely cares about this game. And Jalen's rocking a new hairstyle. So that's the vibes are at an all-time high with the Knicks. As Jalen Brunson would say himself, I think they are immaculate. And the reason for that is ultimately because however much you want to get at Tom Thibodeau for his stubbornness, it's that same stubbornness that's gotten him to where he is. And the way he always gets players on his side is with a very simple mantra. If you go out and play well, you will get paid. If we go out and we win, we all cash out. Alec Burks, $30 million. Kemba Walker, $30 million. You know what? I like $18 million.
Emmanuel quickly, not with the Knicks, but with the Raptors. 26, 27, 28, 29.
I was going to say 27 and a half annually would come out to 4,110. I think that's probably around the lowest he'll get from them with his amazing play this season. Thibodeau is really good at getting guys to buy in under the shared goal of all getting paid. And Nerlens Noel is who I meant to say instead of Kemba Walker. Burks, Noel, those guys got paid. And at the end of the day, Deuce McBride just got paid. That's a kid who went to West Virginia, who is having big moments against Ohio State in college and was a second-round NBA draft pick. He just got handed $13 million. Like this is what they're doing is they're winning, and so they're getting paid. It's not any one player, and I think Randall probably has taken the biggest leap in terms of his personal growth in that regard. But you look at him now, and it's like there was this play against, I want to say Portland, where Randall took a full court fast break and Dante and I think OG went out to the corners and like had their hands ready to catch. and Randall made the pass instead of trying to finish over 2 defenders because they trusted him to make the pass, and Randall trusted the pass, as Thibodeau has been asking him to do all season. And now Randall's got teammates that are just nails from the corner and who are not going to let him down. So he trusts them, and you see that change in his play. They've all kind of done it.
He's like, this is, I said it, I'm sorry to interrupt, Chris, but he like,
I was done. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, he is like bringing the ball up the court and he's getting assists, just throwing it a million miles an hour into the corner. And that was a pass, like his first few years in the Knicks, that was never made. Like the assists would come from grinding and 3-4 pivots against a double, triple team, go up as if you're going to shoot at the last second, whip it out. And those are still there. But like an assist had to be a moment for him. It had to be like, I deserve credit for this. Look how much effort I put. Sure, the guy made the shot, but it was because of my incredible pass. And everyone can see that abundance. And that's not even like, it sounds like a critique. It's almost not a critique because that was like a reality for the Knicks. Like when your best running mate is Reggie Bullock, like Elfrid Payton, like those are like, you have to be Superman a little bit. And now I just think like your point is being seen so clearly in that, like, he's fine just whipping it up the court, like after 2 dribbles. And like, that's an assist the same way. And it doesn't look the same. It doesn't make a highlight tape, but it makes the Knicks a better team.
100%. And that's something that, I think there was just a viral tweet the other day, and it was like something about Steve Kerr. It was just a screenshot of like Elfrid Payton, Reggie Bullock, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, Taj Gibson. And it was like, if you gave Steve Kerr this lineup and tell him to get a 4 seed, he'd like explode. And I just think that's a testament. Like, give Tibbs guys who do their job and he'll figure it out. The thing is that he has like a set amount of jobs in his mind, and quickly that's why I wrote the piece Bending, Not Breaking. Like, quickly bent his idea of what a player could be. He bent his idea of what constituted a good shot, a quality look, but he could never bend his idea of how to build a basketball lineup, and he never broke it. And that's why he's in Toronto right now. So it's all very interesting, but I think ultimately, I think Thibodeau and Randall represent a lot for this Knicks team, more so than just in terms of their growth over the years, but really their like reimagination of themselves. Thibodeau, like, I don't know, staggering Randall and Brunson seemed like illegal to him when he first got his hands on those 2 guys. Now he's doing it like every game. Yeah. Things change.
Yeah, well, what a note to end on. Things change. Kris Pursiainen, thank you so much for all your time. Before I let you go, can you tell everyone where they can find all your great work?
Absolutely. You can look up my name on Google or on Twitter or on Instagram or on YouTube or wherever, and things that I do will come up. I hope you like them. I have a podcast with Ball is Life. It's called All Things NBA from A to Z, and it's where Zach Noble, Albert Nguyen, and I basically just sit down, and every week we comb through the hot topics, and we also have our own fun little segments. So we'll do things like stock exchange, New Year's resolutions we just did. We just want to talk about the NBA and just have a fun time. And it was a venture we all really wanted to start. It would be awesome if y'all went and subscribed on YouTube, supported. Other than that, just you can find my coverage on the WFUV Sports YouTube page or on my own personal Twitter at Kris Pursiainen. I'm sure it'll be linked because trying to spell that will give you a conniption, but thank you in advance if you go search it out.
Yeah. I again, like, exceptional writer. Like, I love this piece, like really, really good podcast. I enjoyed everything you do on Knicks Film School, and he's breaking news now. So must follow on Twitter. Again, last name, Kris, just interrupt me if I get it wrong midway through, but I have it in front of me, so I shouldn't. Pursiainen, Kris, KRIS in front of that on Twitter. Go check it out. But until then, he's Kris. I'm Gavin. We will talk to you very, very soon on Locked On Knicks. All right, awesome.